I'm going to get going, and then I know more people are going to pop in because that's what always seems to happen. Talk about imperfectly perfect, and that is my motto, and that is my brand. Beautiful. Okay. Whoa. All right, here we go. We are going to talk about videos that wow and how to expand your reach in half the time, and why I love talking about short form videos and videos in general and visibility. And I talk fast because I get excited because I want to give you a lot of stuff. So you'll get the recordings, take notes, or you can just sit back and listen. And we're just delighted that you're here. I'm going to go over one of my favorite ways in the whole world to not overthink your content, but also not so that you're not winging it and rambling it. I'm going to teach you an insider trick about how to boost your engagement. And I'm going to teach you how you can get time back because every entrepreneur I know needs that. So that's what we're going to go over and more because I like to over deliver. So you're in the right place. Video is the future, it's now, and it's just going more. So you're in the right place wherever you are. Social media is here to stay. We all know millions of videos. This is how we exchange information. We share videos. So if you want to stay current, hi, Erin. So excited that you're here. This is the place to do it. The studies say we have 8,000 messages coming at us daily. That's crazy time, right? So how do you differentiate yourself? How do you stand out? If you're a coach, believe it or not, there's still a ton of coaches who do not make videos. So just by starting to make videos, you're going to be head and shoulders above the rest. And I'm going to teach you some other ways too. Attention is the new gold standard. That's what we all crave. And unfortunately, there's a lot of sensationalism, but there's a lot of ways you can still do social media your way, your vibe, your tribe. Here's the thing, if you don't educate people about your business, you're not going to stay in business. These days, I get asked to speak a lot on podcasts and for women in business groups. And every time I get on Zoom with somebody, they're, I've been stalking you. We've been stalking you. We love your stuff. And I giggle. And sometimes I don't even remember what I put out lately because my creativity comes in waves and I have somebody that helps me schedule stuff. But you want to be consistent. You don't have to have thousands of followers, but you want to have some presence on at least one platform. You do not have to be Gary V. We don't need another Gary V, right? But we want, when people are checking you out, they want to know that you're not some fly by night person. So they're going to go to your LinkedIn or your Facebook group or your Instagram or somewhere just to see that you've been posting, you have some presence. It doesn't say you have to have thousands or even hundreds, but they just want to know that you are who you say you are. And so that's one of the best ways to help boost your credibility and your visibility by doing short form video. In case you don't know who I am, I've spoken in 44 states and now 6 countries. I have been in the entertainment business since I was in the second grade. I've been on Saturday Night Live, HBO, America's Got Talent. I was featured in the New York Times. I was a blogger for Huffington Post. I moved to New York in 2000. And my number one thing is to be real and to be human wherever you are, whatever you're teaching, whatever you are sharing, because that's how we get relatable. If you want somebody who's going to teach you how to be perfectly polished, I'm not your gal. But if you want someone who's going to help you connect and be human and real, I'm your gal. That's who I am. And here's what I love. Yeah, I have all these credits, but I've helped my clients go from never doing video to having a waiting list for their online courses. One of my clients, Carrie, was really stiff on camera. And we just did a little work. I unlocked her, I unleashed her. She went to go speak for NASA. And her husband was like, "How did you do that? I've been trying to do that for years." It's hard to work with your spouse, right? So I've helped people go viral. I've helped people just get out of their own way. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that later on. We're going to talk about my number one tool for helping you not overthink and how you can help crank out content. I'm also going to teach you how to boost your engagement and how to get more time back using short form video. My philosophy is I want to get you in action. I want you to build this muscle, and then we will correct and continue. So many times I've seen so many women, especially, who get stuck behind their computers trying to perfect their messaging or trying to write their book or write their blogs or wait till they lose 5 more pounds. Or there's this pressure. We feel so much pressure internally and externally to be perfect. And I'm all about let's get you out there, let's get you making videos, and then we will correct and tweak and continue as we go. It's so good to start before you have the big followings, before you have the extra pressure. And here's the secret is you may never feel ready. I have been performing my entire life. A lot of times I'm so excited, I just can't wait to go out there. But if it's a big industry thing, or one time I was speaking at a national convention for NACA, National Association of Campus Activities, and I was picked out of thousands of speakers. I was so nervous, and I had that thought, oh, I don't feel ready. But I just knew, oh, that's my ego. That's my brain trying to keep me safe. Once I got out there and got going, I was in the zone. So just knowing, oh, that's what I do when I'm nervous. So finding out what you do when you're nervous is so important. And it's going to help you learn how to navigate that when there is pressure. And if you're waiting to feel a certain way, it may never come. And that's okay. I can teach you how to lean into that and breathe through it. And here's the deal, the longer you take to get your videos, the less likely you're going to actually press go or do it. So I'm about like, you need a camera, a smartphone, and a ring light. Like, seriously, that's what you need to get going. And then as you develop, you can work on your home studio. I talked with this guy who was amazing. His studio is so hot, and he has 7 stages of home studio. He's a home studio expert, and he and I are probably going to be collaborating. I met him at Podfest, and we were talking about how we always just want to get people going, and then you can get the fancy equipment, but you don't need it to get going. So I want to make it simple for you. Okay. Because we all know you've probably been putting it off. I don't know if you follow me on social media, but I just made a quick video and I've gotten a lot of feedback. I had been in this like purgatory about should I sell my Mini Cooper? Should I bring it down from New Jersey? Do I need it in Texas? Maybe I should leave it up there. It was like this whole thing, and I could not. I was just so indecisive for lots of different reasons. Finally, I drove it down, that it was in the shop, and finally, my brother, who's a super duper car genius mechanic, he was like, Elaine, keep this as a second car, but you need a car. This is such a cute, fun sports car, but it's not an everyday car. So finally, I traded it in and I got a Volkswagen Jetta, and I am delighted and relieved. And the whole point I'm telling you this is when I finally made the decision and took the action, the relief I felt, the 20 pounds of. And so if you've been in that place of, I should work on my video, oh, but I should do this. Oh, it can just be so debilitating. And so I just challenge you, I invite you to start working on your camera stuff today, because that is the most important thing you can work on for your business. I believe that 100 million%. Really quick story. So I have this amazing client, Kirsten Weiss. She is a cozy murder mystery author. I know, who knew that was a thing? She has written over 67 books on Amazon. She makes a living from writing her books. Now, she came to me and she said, I really need to up my camera game. She wanted to get more confident on camera. She was not happy. She was making videos, but she was really struggling and suffering and didn't feel good about it. So we started working together, and fast forward, she is like on fire. She is cranking out videos, but here's what's interesting. I've taught her how to just crank out content, and some of it has to do, it's all under the umbrella of author, but she is sharing all kinds of things about her life, a peek behind the curtain. She is building her community, and she started teaching classes about her books and writing, and people are signing up like crazy. She had 153 signups. And now, of course, usually you have half of the people who sign up show up. But what's fascinating is she's selling more books, but she's building this whole community and she's on fire. And it's so exciting because she just wanted to get more confident. And now she's doing like improv and stand up and all these other things she had no idea she even wanted to do. But it's so exciting because her fans are getting to know her more. She's selling a ton more books. And now she's also developed two other income streams into her business. And so that's just a great example of you just never know where video can take you. And so I invite you to be open to hearing something today that maybe you never thought about for yourself. Because there's so much possible when you're consistent. The key is consistent. Okay, so that's Kirsten. How many times have you gotten in front of the computer on a Monday and you're like, I gotta write something, or oh God, I gotta shoot something, and you go blank, right? The pressure of lights, camera, action, and I can talk all day. I have tons of content, but sometimes if I'm off or I feel pressure, I got nothing, right? And I'm a big believer in prepping, a little bit of prep, and then giving yourself a prompt and or shot list or bullet points. We do not need scripts written out. We do not need Shakespeare. I want you to make bullet point lists for yourself for lots of reasons, right? So as a comedian, you don't write out your whole set, but sometimes you need to work on the order. So you'll just be like parent, aunt, like one word that will cue you. This is such a good tip. So this is good for speaking. This is good for interviewing on podcasts. This is also good for your video. A little bit of prep, a little bit of what is a prompt, okay? So prompts, if you're studying AI, it's all about the prompts, right? So a prompt is something that's going to help you get into your material because you're an expert. You know so much about what you've been trained in, what you've been certified in, what you coach your people in, what you speak on. And yet, if someone said, hey, give us some super tips, sometimes it's right. But if I said, are you ready? This is my favorite prompt. What is one myth you would like to break open about your industry or the work that you do? What is a myth you want to demystify? So if you notice, I'm trying to demonstrate what I'm teaching. So one of the myths is that you have to have all this fancy equipment. You have to be perfectly polished and perfectly together before you start shooting video, right? There's all these myths. No, you need a cell phone, maybe a holder, and a ring light. That's a myth, right? So what's another myth? Oh, you really shouldn't do social media until you have a bunch of followers. That's silly. Like the best time to get started is yesterday. What's the next best time? Today. You don't need a whole big list. In fact, I think it's better to grow slowly and organically. What's another myth? That if people look at you and they see their low numbers, they're going to dismiss you. Not necessarily. I work with certain boutique people. It's not about massive numbers for me. It's about quality. And so, what are the myths in your world that you want to demystify? And here's the thing, when you're talking about a myth, it automatically positions you as an expert. You're not saying, hi, I'm Elaine, and I can teach you all about camera confidence. And I've done all these things and so boring, who cares? But if I say, hey, let me ask you a question. Are you a coach and you want to do more videos, but you feel stuck and you feel, oh my gosh, I have to have all this equipment, or I have to have this, or I have to be, 10 pounds lighter. Let me break that apart for you right now. Do you see how, like, when you're breaking apart a myth, it automatically conveys that you know what you're talking about, that you're an expert without you having to say it or prove it. So when you're coming from a place of authority versus trying to prove it, you see the difference? Love it. So I have 10 categories in my course, but yeah, that's the myth one. And hopefully, I'm hoping that you're like scribbling ideas. Oh, yeah, there's another myth. Like Erin does really cool retreats at her lake house. And one of the myths is, I think for women, is I can't go on a retreat until X, or I have to be on the verge of a breakdown. We have all of these myths and mental and emotional blocks. So, what are the ones that you deal with your people? And speak to that, right? Here's another thing I love because it's so easy to be like, wow, okay, I'm gonna teach this tip. But what if I do it out of order? I deal with this with some of my new clients. They're like, oh, I want to introduce myself and then I want to have this order with all of my content, which is great. And I don't want you to overthink it because guess what? Social media comes and all kinds of the algorithms, right? They're changing. We have no control. And so it's great if you want to have an order to work on and just realize that it may come out in different ways. So another thing is you could be like, hey, I'm Elaine and I'm talking about camera confidence. And here is one of my favorite super tips about looking right into the camera and thinking that you're talking to your best friend over coffee instead of thinking that you're talking to the whole wide web, which is very daunting and scary. If you can lean in and think that you're having coffee with one person who you just really love, and you just want to give them some love, and you just want to tell them that it's going to be okay, and it's just going to be great to share your heart and your value and your content. And there's not that many bullies, and you can block them. You have more control than you think. So that is a super tip, right? And then you could also say, hey, you know what? Last week I talked about another super tip. So if you haven't seen that, go back and find it because it's really good too. It's on what to wear, what not to wear. Can you see how I didn't have to go into this is tip number 2 because it's if you want to number them, it's great, but you can always be loose about it because a lot of times that's how it gets pushed out. I've given you 2 prompts, right? What is a myth you want to debunk? And what are super tips? And if you're like, what's a super tip, Elaine? What is something you say often to your clients, to your colleagues, to your kids, to your spouse? Like one day at a time. I love all the AA sayings, right? Progress over perfection, one day at a time, one video at a time. So that could be a super tip. Even though I hear it all the time, think about all the people who don't know yet. In fact, are you guys ready? Here's another bonus. When we are in the coaching world and the transformational world, it's so easy to think that everybody else knows what we know. And here's the deal, so many people don't know, right? So many people haven't gotten sober yet, or haven't been through a divorce yet, or maybe they've never been to a retreat yet, or maybe they have never done any kind of personal development, or maybe they did, but it was 20 years ago and they forgot. And so it's so easy to think, oh, everybody knows that, right? That inner critic. Rant. So I invite you to say thank you for sharing. And here's the deal, people need to hear things many times. If you work with adults, and most of us do here, we need to hear things many times before it sinks in. So even if you're sharing a super tip that your ego says, everybody knows that, or that's not that big of a deal, guess what? Maybe somebody needed to hear it exactly from you with your special energy, intention, pitch, tone, and maybe you have a story to make it very special too. So that is super tips and the prompt about demystifying. So yeah, and here's the deal. Don't, if you want to have a big fancy social media planner, go for it. I've used a lot of them. And at the end of the day, I am like, what's fast? I'm running 3 businesses. I'm caretaking for 2 parents. I don't have a lot of time, right? So I like Google Docs. They're always with me, whether I am traveling at a conference or working with a client in Virginia. I've got my Google Docs, right? And so I have prompts, I have tips, I have content ideas. My hope for you is that you are starting a list wherever you keep your stuff and that you are adding to it. So are you ready? Here's one more super tip. Anytime you're watching somebody else, it could be in your genre, your niche, or something completely different. If they say something, you can be, oh, I love what they said. here's my take on it, right? As a comedian, you're never supposed to steal somebody else's jokes. That's forbidden. But you can say, oh my gosh, I love that bit when she does about her mother who brings up her exes from 30 million years ago. What's my take on my mother about that issue, right? So some of your super tips, some of your teachings can be, you know what? I was watching Tony Robbins and he was saying blah, blah, blah. And here's my take on that, right? Super tips, you can get them, you can use inspiration from anywhere and just make them your own and always give other people credit. That drives me crazy when people are like, oh, progress, not perfection. I came up with that. It's actually no, that's been around since the 30s, if not earlier. Keep it really simple, whatever works for you. And here's the thing, I want you to have a plan when you're making, whether you're going live or whether you're doing short form or even long form. You want to have some kind of a plan. What I find what happens, a lot of people are like, oh, I'll just wing it. I don't like to be constrained. And then sometimes they just go off. And what happens to a confused mind? We shut down, right? If our brain is thinking, oh, this is too intense or too long, or where are we going with this? Our brain shuts down and we leave. If you've ever been a speaker, you can see it in people's eyes. And I know for me, if something feels too complicated or too math or too challenging, I'm like, squirrel. So we don't want to lose our people, right? But then we also don't want to be too intense and, okay, here's the chapter to my book. Here we go. So I don't want you rambling, but I don't want you to over push too. You want to think of one person, one problem, one solution. Super simple formula, super helpful in the beginning. One person, one problem, one solution. Obviously, I'm not doing that here because this is a training. This is a master class. But when you're doing short form, that's a great guideline. We've all had people who just ramble or think about you found somebody and you're like, oh, this is really cool. And then they just start going off on a tangent and you're gone. We don't have time, right? So next we're going to cover how to boost engagement, right? The man behind the curtain, right? That magical thing called engagement and views and insights. It is such a crazy game. So let's say you shot your video, you did a super tip. Hey, are you a busy, overworked mom and you are losing your mind and you find yourself snapping at your kids? Here's a quick tip. Go in the bathroom for 30 seconds and take 5 deep breaths and picture a lake. And then after that, then you can go start dinner or blah, 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 blah. I just made that up. And so that is, let's say you made that video. So you shot it in your phone. Before you post it, I want you to go on the platform, whether it's Instagram, that's one of my favorites, or TikTok, and you want to scroll and you want to like and you want to comment. And when I say comment, that means I love this quote. Thank you. I needed to hear this today. Thank you. Love your work. I love what you're doing. This is so great to put this out in the world. Rock on, sister. I have a lot of positive stuff on my social stuff because that's what I like. And I don't engage. If there's something that I don't like, I just keep scrolling. And I invite everybody to do the same. I think we can use social media for good. I think even though the platforms are changing crazy right now, January 2025, we can still use social media for good and we can just scroll past the other stuff. So the whole point is you want to show the platform that you are on it, that you are engaging as if you're at a cocktail party. Oh, nice to meet you. Tell me about what you do. Oh, I love that. I'd love to know more. We don't want to just like with the heart. We want to comment. And then if there's something that you really love, you want to press the flag and save it. So after you've done that for 5 minutes, and I encourage you to put a timer on because we don't want you to get sucked down the rabbit hole. After you've engaged for 5 minutes, then I want you to post your short form video because that is going to show the algorithm that you don't just post and bounce. That's going to show the algorithm that you came to the party and that you engaged with other people on the platform. And then you put your video out there. And so the algorithm is more likely to push you out. Here's another reason I love short form videos. Are you ready? This is bonus. And when I say short form, 58 seconds or less. Yes, they're getting longer on TikTok and Instagram, but here's the deal. The algorithm wants people to watch your stuff. So if you have a super, hey, are you busy, mom? Here's a soup tip. Blah, 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 blah. If you like this, follow me for more stuff because I feel your pain, sister. How is it? 10 seconds, 15 seconds? The algorithm would rather you watch all of that video than if I said, hey, everybody, are you a busy mom? I know, me too. Isn't it crazy? Like the other day, and then there's some rambly thing. People are not going to watch all of that, right? And so the algorithm sees that people are watching 5 seconds of that and then bailing. So it's not going to push it out. So if you make short content that people are watching the majority of, the algorithm's going to go, ooh, they like Julie Marty Pearson stuff when she talks about podcaster story now. So it's going to push it out to more people because we want people who are our followers. And we also want people to see it who are not the followers. That's how we gain more people. That's how people discover you. That's how we discover people. So that's why less is more. That's the whole point of engagement and playing with the algorithm to maximize and optimize your content. So when you're editing, you want to take out the breaths, you want to take out long pauses. That's a whole other conversation. But that's a super tip for just getting more eyeballs on your stuff and showing the algorithm that your content is good and worthy. And yeah, thoughtful comments. I needed to hear this. Thank you so much. Love it. Pretend like you're at a party and what would you say? And the comments need to be 5 words, not just thank you so much. Or I love your work. There's a woman who does Black stories we all should know, Sally, and I love her and I send her money and she's so amazing and she's so just delightful. And so I love there's certain people that I'm just like, thank you, you're amazing, keep doing what you're doing. They're spreading love, they're spreading good information that we need to know in a positive way, uplifting way. So that's one of the best ways to get your stuff pushed out too. We want to build long-term relationships and we want to build a community, right? And so when you're thinking of social media, it's really about building a community and eventually getting people off and coming to your things, right? Because we don't own the platforms. As we demonstrated, like TikTok was literally shut down. 170 million Americans use TikTok. Many of them have their small businesses. Many of them it's how they make money. And it was just shut down a week and a half ago. Right? Wow. And then magically it came back. And there's a whole other mess behind that. I'm not going to get political. But my point is, these are platforms that we get to play on. And eventually, hopefully, we get to invite people to come to our Zooms, have a call with us, come play in our email list like that in our communities. Because at the end of the day, we don't own them. I know people that have been shut down, fined, whatever. Now, there's still amazing platforms and they're way cheaper than in the 80s and 90s. Before the internet, you had to pay somebody $5K a month for 3 months to be a PR person for you. In order to get on TV or radio, it was very expensive. And now we have these platforms that we can use, but we just have to be smart about it. All right, so now you're like 3 to 6 hours. Elaine, what the heck are you talking about? Okay, so as I've said before, video is not going away. It is here to stay, and it's the best thing you can do to build your business. Now you may be like, but why? Speaking. Let me tell you, during COVID, I did not get to speak much, but I was on camera all the time. I was speaking on Zoom. I was doing trainings and classes and summits and all kinds of virtual things. And then the minute we started doing in-person stuff, I was asked to speak and I did not miss a beat, even though I felt rusty. I know it's because I still had the pressure of speaking virtually and I had the pressure of performing and speaking. And so practicing on video will help you in every other area of your life. Now, here's another thing. If you're a coach, you probably repeat yourself, right? It's part of what we do. I'm not a parent, but I think that's what parents do too. We say one day at a time, focus on one thing you want to change. Look right into the camera, come from your why. I say a lot of things. And so, one of the things you can do to get your time back is you can make videos and you can send people to your videos. Let's say you want to invite more people to come work with you, but you want to have people who are really committed, right? So one of the best ways is you can say, okay, you know what? I'm going to send you a link. This is a private video on YouTube. And once you do this, then I want you to email me the form and blah, blah, blah. And then we'll set up a call. That is a great way to see if they're really serious or if they're just kicking the tires. So you can have private videos on YouTube or Vimeo, wherever, where you're like, hi, welcome. I would love to connect with you. I can't wait to learn what you're up to, blah, 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 blah. I only work with super serious, committed, mission-driven entrepreneurs who are really ready to invest and are ready to take themselves to the next level. And so you need to be that in order to get on a call with me or whatever. So that is one way. Another way is you want to have frequently asked questions on your website. For another reason, it shows that you're credible. It shows that this is not your first rodeo. So you can say, hey, I'm Elaine, and you may have questions like, how do I work with people? Here's one of the ways I work with people. Hey, here's some testimonials. There's so many ways people can be getting to know and trust you before they get on the phone with you. It's one way to warm them up. So another great way is you can make Loom videos and you can easily send them. There's so many different things you can do, but you can say, hey, Jane, I noticed that you stopped by my website the other day and I just wanted to reach out and say I'd love to connect with you and learn more about what you're up to, see if you have any questions. No pressure. I just wanted to reach out. Hope you're having a great day, blah, blah, blah. Would that have you stand out from the gazillions of emails that they get or messages? So that's just some of the ways you can use video to get your time back. A lot of people I know do hybrid teaching where they will teach a topic. Okay, let's talk about scripting. And here's like the basics. And then I want you to work on blah, 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 blah. And then when you come to class, I will answer questions and go over blah. So that's another way to really support your students so they still are getting you, but they're also getting to do work before you come on. So that's another way to get your time back. I can go on and on, but those are some examples. I hope you're writing them down of ways to get your time back. Yeah, video is a way to clone yourself. It's a way for people to get to know and trust you while you're sleeping, coaching, working out, traveling. It's so many great ways for you to be lots of places. Here's the other thing is I don't want you to get discouraged. So many times people compare their numbers to other people's numbers. It's more about, are you growing? The only person you should ever really compare yourself to is yourself. Seriously. Easy to say, not always easy to do, but nobody else does it like you, and no one has been on the same journey. Yeah, compare. You want to have a plan. And if you're new, don't try to be on every platform. I want you to pick one and do that. This is why accountability is good. This is why community is good. So you want to have a plan when you post. You want to scroll. You can batch, which is a whole thing I'll go into next time. Nobody does it like you. Quick story. I had this, she was amazing. And she was so stiff. She was a decent speaker, but when she got in front of the camera, it was like she would just get so in her head. She had so much unresolved mom stuff. And so we worked and I kept pattern interrupting her, making her laugh and lighten up. And now she does IG lives. She's really lightened up and she's having so much more fun because I don't know if you've ever known somebody who's like super smart, but they're so intense, you just can't deal. So it's amazing how working on your video can also help you in lots of other areas of your life. We talked about the prompts. We talked about the super tips. We talked about the Google lists. We talked about how to boost your engagement. I gave you some ideas about how to get your time back. I do have something I am so excited about. So this is only by invitation. And if you wanted to do it, we'd have to have a conversation. You can't just sign up for this because it's very intimate. It's very exclusive. And I just invite you, whether you work with me or somebody else, start doing videos, get some accountability, and get on the bandwagon because it's the best way to grow your business, your confidence, your visibility, and work begets work. Really quick, I worked with this woman on her speaking. She had this amazing keynote, but it wasn't hitting. We ripped it apart, we put it back together. We added a lot more fun and stories and emotion, and we took out half of the content. And she booked a $7,500 gig out of this talk that she did at Berkeley. Sometimes you just need a little tweak to make all the difference. And I know what it's like when you're not doing your thing. I know what it's like. I did that sort of half in, half out for years. And it is soul sucking when you're not living your mission. It adds to self doubt. And so I encourage you to go for it, to lean in and get your next level confidence. I'm going to just tell you a little bit about my newest program. So it is, and this is only for mission driven people who really want to be uncomfortable and be gently pushed. I'm tough love, but I do it with a lot of love and humor. And if you're not ready, that's cool. But if you want to have next level confidence, if you want to be seen, if you want to have at least 50 pieces of content, if you want to get booked and you want to attract higher ending clients and people who are really resonating with your higher vibe, this could be the program for you. So I'm doing this I've added a special retreat component. We're going to have Zoom classes, and then there is a live retreat aspect in May. And it's going to be at my cousin's beautiful horse ranch in California that is magic. And we're going to be doing some in-person work. And you're going to get to work with some amazing, ridiculously beautiful horses because horses don't lie. So we're going to be doing Meisner repetition. We're going to be doing a lot of speaking stuff, releasing the masks that block us. And then there's also going to be work with the horses. And then, of course, the beautiful retreat thing where there's amazing hikes. And she has this beautiful outdoor area that we're going to be doing around the campfire. And the goal is that you are just unrecognizable with your leadership, with your confidence, that you're unstoppable, whatever the situation is. And whatever's really been blocking you from stepping into the next level, that is to be blasted through. Then there's some accountability and follow up afterwards too, because I know what it's like to go away and have that aha, and then you get back and you're like, ah. So I wanted to make sure there's support for that too. So that is the masterclass. This was really fun. Okay, thanks so much for coming, everybody. To be continued. Have an awesome rest of your day. Okay, thank you.